It's Tuesday. So that means it's time for a new episode of No Filter Tuesdays with Naomi. I mean, this is a big day for No Filter. I mean, because we've got the first time that we are having an EGOT. We have an EGOT on No Filter with Naomi. And of course, she is someone extremely special to me. She's won an Emmy, she's won a Grammy, she's won an Oscar, she's won a Tony. And she's also the only Black female EGOT ever. And she's also one of the warmest people I know. Humble, real. You just get drawn to her every time you meet her. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the extraordinary, amazing Whoopi Goldberg.
Hello.
Hi, Whoopi.
Hi, baby. How you doing? You look terrific.
Oh, bless you. How are you?
You know, just here and trying to not get in trouble and have some fun and, you know, appreciate getting old.
You'll never get old, you won't. Your spirit is so young. Always and forever.
Ah. Hi, darling.
So, Whoopi, where are you, may I ask?
I'm in New Jersey.
And how has this whole quarantine life been for you?
I've loved it. I loved every second of it. I still love it. I don't want to go outside ever again. You know, this has been perfect. Talking to people, you know, I can see people, I can talk to people. I love this, and I feel like I have had better time with people. You know, I have a 6-year-old great-granddaughter, and she and I have been having these conversations about what it means to be family, you know, because she says, well, you're not my grandmother, right? I said, no, I'm not. She said, well, who are you? I said, I'm your grandmother's mother. She's like, okay. You know, and she asks me what her grandma was like as a little girl. And so I tell her the things that were okay and the things that were not okay. And she goes, oh, I'm going to be like that. I'm not going to do things that are not okay too. So she doesn't, you know, we do our computer stuff when we need to, but it's not about the computer. It's about she and I having conversations. So, yeah, so that's been really great. Just having people pay attention when you're talking to them, as opposed to looking down when they're responding. So I've liked it. And it's, I think, helped a lot of people understand that you are, as yourself, enough. You are enough. And so there's no reason to feel bad about yourself. You know, you can, in these last several months, people were able to try things, and people got a sense of humor about themselves.
Oh, they got it back.
Oh, they got it back, yeah.
Yeah,
which is true. Lovely to see. So for me, it's been great. You know, I've loved it.
So I'm trying to remember. First of all, can you tell the audience what does an EGOT stand for?
Apparently, it means an Emmy, a Tony, a Golden Globe, and an Oscar.
Wow.
Yes.
And you are the first Black woman ever to have an EGOT. What does that feel like?
Well, I didn't even know it was a thing.
It's a thing, Whoopi. It's a thing.
I found out about EGOTs when I did something on a show, 30 Rock, and Tracy Morgan was trying to find me because I was an EGOT. And I was like, can you tell me what it actually is? And he's like, I don't know, they wrote it up. So it became a whole thing. But there are apparently quite a few of us. Rita Moreno is an EGOT also. You know, there's quite a few.
I think John Legend's one now too, isn't he?
John Legend is one. There's a bunch. I think Barbara Streisand is one.
Wow. God, all legendary, all of you. So I'm trying to remember, going back from the beginning, like we always do here in No Filter. Where did we first meet? Do you remember?
I don't know. I feel like I don't feel like it was here. I feel like I met you in Europe.
I think that I do remember.
Where?
And I tell you where it was. It was backstage at the Oscars in 1995 when Quincy Jones produced the Oscars and you hosted.
Yes.
And I somehow, don't know how, was able and asked to give an Oscar of Best Costume with Claudia Schiffer and Pierce Brosnan. And I got to meet you there and I was just like, ah!
Wow. I'm so, I find that I often try to figure out how or where I've met people, and I'm like, did I meet you under the ocean? I want to think that no, you were at the supermarket, So,
but I've definitely seen you in Europe.
Yes,
yes, absolutely. Because we go through so many time zones, it does get confusing.
It is. It really is. I just, I can't remember.
Now, so then I guess you're not going to remember, so I'm going to remind you. Do you remember the line that you said when we walked off the stage after giving our Oscar?
No.
Best costume.
What did I?
You said they make 10,000 a day and they still look pissed off.
Yes. Comic. What can I do?
Oh, Whoopi. I mean.
But you forgave me.
Of course I did. Never took it as a thing. But what did you think about the Oscars when you did it? What was it like? Was that your first time hosting the Oscars?
I think it might have been. No, it wasn't. It couldn't have been. No. Because Quincy, I think, was my second. I think I've done it 4 times. So Quincy was either my second or third. But, I love the Oscars. I love them. I've loved them since I was a little kid, and it was so exciting for me. And it was exciting because my mom was still alive, my mother and my brother both. Nice. And we spent many Oscar evenings in the projects in front of our black and white television with me giving Oscar speeches. And so for them to see me actually host it, we just giggled. We just laughed a lot and said, who would have thought?
Not only to host it, but to get one.
Well, yes, that too.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So then it sounds like to me that you had the actress in you then.
Oh, yes. Since I'm probably 3 or 4. This was all I ever wanted to do because it allowed me, because I have a very fanciful imagination. I love thinking about the outer limits of our minds. And so when I was very little, I thought I could be, I could live on Mars, I could be like this, and this is what it would be like. And so I would act it out. And my mother said, well, I think I have an idea of something you would like. Let me show you what some people do for a living. And so I want to say we watched Bringing Up Baby. I think that's one of the first films, Cary Grant and Katharine Hepburn. And I had such a great time watching it. I thought, I would like to do that. I would like to wear those dresses. I would like to have a tiger to walk around. So it became, all those movies became different worlds that I could live in. I had no idea, apparently, that I was Black and I wasn't supposed to be feeling like. I did not know. And my mother never said, you can't do that. She never said.
Why should she? But I think that's right that she never. Yes. Why should she say you can never do that?
Yeah. And,
I don't believe in putting any of those boundaries in place. Your mother was absolutely right.
Yes. But think about it. That's 60 some odd years ago. And my mom was forward thinking anyway, but, it never occurred to her to say, well, this isn't, they don't really, and there's not enough, because, the older I got, I then began to see other people of color like Sidney Poitier and like Harry Belafonte, and just thinking, cool. Okay, so they're there too.
Remember the first movie your mother took you to at a movie theater?
Yes. It was a movie with Elvis Presley, honey. I want
My
to
mother was a big Elvis fan.
Yeah, Viva. It might have been Viva Las Vegas or something. Yeah.
Wow, that must have been a treat.
Yeah.
So, Whoopi, I've always, when I think of you, you just always to me been so warm. You're giving. You're humble. You're spiritual. You're chilled. You're always chilled. It's always your solution person. It's like never ever ever seen you in just always chilled. It's easy.
I try. That's what I try for. I do go off from time to time, and it doesn't feel good to me because I feel like I'm doing it just because I can. So I try, so I try to think of the best solution for me. Because if I have the best solution for me, I can impart whatever I need to do.
So now I'm going to go back to, where did you grow up as a child?
In Chelsea, in Manhattan, 26th Street and 10th Avenue.
What was that like growing up in New York City? Is that in the 70s?
You are so sweet.
Whoopi, you're never going to look your age no matter what. So
well, it starts, figure for our conversations, probably 1960, because I was 5 then. And I feel like when kids hit 5, they then start to remember things. They're able to remember, they start to remember what they know. So when I was a kid, I was lucky because Chelsea was a place in New York where you had rich people, not so rich people, then poor people. You had all kinds of cuisines, all kinds of foods. Everybody who lived in the projects, it was Spanish and Latvian and Russian and Greek and, Spanish. I mean, just every language. And
everyone was there in a melting pot together.
Yeah, and you had to learn to say in every language, hello, Mrs. So-and-so, can so-and-so come out to play? Or, hello, Mrs. So-and-so, may I use the bathroom?
Yeah,
so,
manners.
It just, I was very lucky. I was very lucky to grow up where I did when I did, because it was the beginning of great change in America. And so I got to watch it and hear about it from different sides, from my mom, from my aunts, from my cousins, to understand what was happening and why it was happening, and why it was happening the way it was. So I was really lucky. And then I was a hippie when I got older, did all kinds of things like that.
So then after that, I read that you became a bricklayer.
Well, I became a bricklayer probably
late teens.
No, early 20s, because I was sort of moving around. And
you weren't just any bricklayer. I heard you were an incredible bricklayer.
No, I was a very bricklayer, and you had to come. It's true. You had to come along and sort of clean up after me. I wasn't great, but I was dedicated because it was a job. I was glad to have a job. I worked for Chase Manhattan Bank. I laid bricks. I did all kinds of stuff. And then I worked in the morgue when I was in California. I moved to California, and I had a little kid by then. So I had to, get a job,
And were you were a single mother?
I was a single mom. Yeah.
Like my mother. And that wouldn't have been easy at that time. So working single,
Yeah, and I was on welfare. I thank God welfare was there, because when I got to California, I realized it was not a good thing for me to be married. I didn't understand what all that meant. I didn't understand what all that meant. And when I realized that it wasn't for me, I was out. But when you don't have any money, you say, yes, I'll take some help, and then you do everything you can get off it. And so that's what I did. I raised my kid, and when I made a little bit of money, I jumped off because, it served the purpose.
What drew you to LA? Why did you decide to go to California?
Because there was a guy that I met who, and becoming friends with, was on his way back to California because he was from California. He was an actor. And he had a little kid. And he said, would you come and bring your kid? And maybe you can be the nanny for the kid, for my kid, and your kid will have somebody to play for. And I thought, well, I'd like to go to California. I've never been, and see, I thought California, I don't know what I thought about. I never heard of San Diego. That's where I ended up. I was like, wait, where's Hollywood? Where's Hullabaloo? Where
I thought it was a whole place in its own entity.
Yes, it had a whole bunch of little chopped up places. And so I got there and it didn't work out being a nanny. So I had to find a gig really fast. And that's how I ended up going to the welfare folks and saying, can you help me? This is what happened and I need some help. And they were very good. Now, I couldn't wait to get off of welfare because, they pop up at your house whenever they want to. You can't have certain things at your house. You can't make any money if you're on welfare. So I really wanted to get out from under that, and as many people do. No one loves being on welfare. I have to say that, because people are telling you what to do, basically. And so once I got off, I was thrilled, girl, thrilled.
So from that point on, so you left the nanny job, you went back to welfare. How did stand-up enter into your life? Where does that come in? At what point did that, or entertainment, or coming into this whole world of entertainment?
It's always been there. I did theater at Children's Theater in Manhattan when I was a kid. And the guy that I moved out to be with in California was also in the theater. So I just hooked up with all those folks I met. And that was, that stayed with me. And then I just started doing all kinds of stuff. And then I ended up working.
So art was always in your life?
Yeah, always. Always, always, always.
So can you tell us about what was your first break in California?
Yes, I got a letter from a man here in New York. I was living in San Francisco by that time. And I got a letter saying, my name is David White. I run the Dance Theater Workshop in Manhattan, and I've heard about your monologues, and we're doing a whole monologue festival, and we'd like to pay you some money to come. Now, I said, okay, because it was in Chelsea, so I could stay at my mom's house.
Go home to mom.
That's it. And that's what I did. So I came back and, they said, I saw this amazing spot down in Chelsea, and it was beautiful. And Joyce was there, that's the dance spot. Mm-hmm. And we were, I think, around the corner from them. And for the first couple of days, no one came to the show because, you're putting up flyers and doing stuff. And then Bette Midler came. And then another wonderful actress came. And then a man wrote, his name was Mel Gussow. He wrote a review of the show that I was doing, which I had written, which was me doing all these characters. And if he had been my boyfriend, if I had been living with him for 100 years, I couldn't have got a better review. I mean, it was so extraordinary that my mother and I were like, wow, okay. And not thinking, oh, well, this means something more is going to happen. No. So I go to work to do the shows. And David White says to me, would you consider doing maybe an extra week or two? I said, no. I said, no one's coming. He said, this review has changed that. And from there on in, that sort of started the ball, and then Mike Nichols came. If you made a Hollywood movie, this is
it.
Yeah.
But how did you feel? Because I remember that feeling of getting something and something, getting that call for something you really wanted, or you maybe forgot that you did. What did that feel like for you?
I just kept thinking, well, this is interesting. Oh, this is kind of cool. This is really nice. And when we got to the point of doing the show for Broadway for Mike, we had an after party. There was an after party. And I remember holding on to my mom, and we were walking around going, oh my God, look at Madonna, oh my God, Madonna's there. And my mother would say, stop, just walk, we'll just walk past. Okay. So we walked past Madonna thing. And then I said to her, oh my God, Mom, look. She said, who, where? Left, right. Look to and it was Paul Simon and Art Garfunkel. And my mother said, we have to go over there. I said, no. I just met her. No. She said, come on, we're going. So we went over, and we had probably one of the best conversations I've ever had with anyone about what this is like. Because Paul Simon said to me, listen, it's going to get really fast and a lot is going to happen. But you have to remember two things. Remember to have as good a time as you can, because everything you're going to experience, this is the first time for you, so enjoy it. Paul said, Art and I never did. We just did the work. We never had a good time with it. Have a good time. And then he said, now, I just want to tell you, a lot of people are not going to get you. They're not going to understand you, just personally. You will be strange to them. He said, don't worry about it. What they don't understand won't hurt them. Unless they piss you off, and then you will hurt them. But, you'll be fine.
Incredible, beautiful thing for him to say.
Yeah, I've carried that.
That's sound advice.
All these years, and this is what I've said to newbies that I meet: have a good time.
Enjoy it.
Yeah,
it's very important, because that factor can be so quickly forgotten.
That's it.
My God. So from there, so you're back in New York.
Right.
You're doing the one-man show, right?
Right.
So then when do you get a call about The Color Purple? Steven Spielberg, Quincy Jones. Pops.
It's close to the end. Now, here's what happened with that. When I came the first time, my daughter and I had been driving somewhere in Berkeley, and we heard Alice Walker reading Color Purple on NPR. And my daughter and I pulled the car over to listen, because it was so extraordinary hearing her.
Hearing her voice.
Yeah. And so I thought, I'm going to write her a letter. And so I wrote her a letter. I sent it, I think, to the publisher. What I didn't realize is that they're in San Francisco, where I was. And so when I got to do the first show, I got a letter, because I think I wrote her and said, I'm on my way to New York because I'm doing this and blah, blah. And, here's where I'll be. Well, there was a letter waiting for me saying, Dear Whoopi, I already know about you. I live in San Francisco. I've been to all your shows. I know what you do. I already sent your stuff. It was like, and I said to my mother, Ma, look. So I gave it to her, and my mother's like, oh my God. And I was like, oh my God. She said, okay. It's all cool. So she said, when they know what they're doing, someone will reach out so you can audition. Because I had said to her, I'll play the dirt on the floor.
If you just wanted to be in that film.
I just wanted to be, you know what? I didn't even know what I meant when I was writing it. I don't think I understood what I was saying, because I didn't know anything about movies. I only knew about being on stage. So at the end of my run on Broadway, I had a manager, Sandy Gallen.
Yes, and I love Sandy. I loved him.
Yeah, Sandy was my
rest in peace.
And Ron Meyer was my agent, and they said, listen,
I know,
Steven
Ron.
Spielberg wants to see you. He's not able to come to New York to see your show on Broadway. I was like, okay, sure, okay. So I get to California. I get back to California, and they said, well, he wants you to come to the studio. And I was like, oh, to the studio.
E.T. had already come and gone, right?
Yeah. Oh my God. E.T., Raiders of the Lost Ark, name it, he's already done. So I'm thinking, okay, I want to meet him. Of course I want to meet him. Me and Indiana Jones would be a great combination. That's in my head. That's what I'm thinking. Jaws, me and Richard Dreyfuss trying to fight off another shark. Who knew? So I say, okay, what does he want me to do? This? Well, do your show. And he has a little theater in the studio, and he wants to see and figure out what he wants to do. So I meet him, and he says, "Well, I think I'm going to be directing Color Purple, and I just wanted to see, I saw your letter to Alice, and so I wanted to see what you're doing because I also heard that the show was really good." I said, "Oh, sure, yes, I'll do the whole show." And so that evening, I'm behind the curtain, and I make the mistake of looking out, and I see, oh my God, there's Ashford and Simpson. I see Michael Jackson.
No way!
Yes, I see all these people, and I'm thinking, oh, shit. Okay, whatever it's going to be, it's going to be. So I go out and I do the show, and the one thing that Sandy and Ron said was, do not do Blee Tea. So one of the pieces I didn't do on Broadway, but that I had written, was called Blee Tea, Bleet, and it was the Black E.T. So he does not land in a nice suburb, he lands in Oakland. And he gets all caught up. He gets a jerry curl. He's running hose. He's doing all kinds of stuff. And then when his people come back to get him, he shoots them up because he doesn't recognize them. And the piece was really about, I felt people should stop asking people to assimilate because it sometimes you don't recognize your own folks, so you always have to keep some part of who you are when you get here, and then you can build in, but you don't totally change. So that was the whole point. So they said, do not do that. I said, okay.
You didn't do that one.
Well, they told me not to do it. And then when I got there and I finished, and they said,
and everybody, she's saying they. This is the Steven Spielberg.
And they are saying, more. Do you have more? And I said, well, I do, but they asked me not to do this. And Steven said, what did they ask you not to? I said, well, they know, E.T.'s your thing. And I did a parody. And he says, really? I said, uh-huh. He said, well, I want to see it. I was like, oh, I don't know. He said, it'll be fine. He said, it'll be fine. I said, okay. So I do this parody. They're laughing. And then I explain at the end that the moral is you mustn't ask people to assimilate themselves to the point where they don't recognize their own people. That's as people, come to find. So he's like, I love this. This is fabulous. And really, I never looked at it this way, but what a really interesting way to look at it. I said, well, I wanted to tell people because, most families come and they come from other countries and, they have to keep their mother tongue. They have to learn how to speak the mother tongue. Their kids should learn how to speak the mother tongue. You should never leave the mother tongue out of life. So he said, I think it's great. And he said, so I'm doing Color Purple and I want to ask you, would you...
Now that's 17 personalities you did in this one show.
Wasn't quite 17. It was probably about 6.
Oh. Well, I have her in the 80s, one woman show 17 personalities.
Well, because...
But 6 is good enough.
I'm, because
That's a lot of dialogue.
yes, it's a lot of dialogue, and it's all stuff that I wrote, but it was great for me because I could improvise whenever I needed to. So I could have a good time, but I always knew my characters. And at that time, one of them was a young girl who loves being on the beach, and she gets involved with a guy, and she ends up pregnant, and she goes to her church, and no one will talk to her about it. She goes to friends, and they don't want to talk to her. She goes home, and her mother puts her out.
This is one of the characters.
Yeah. And her mother throws her out. And so what she does is she takes care of it herself physically. Because when I was younger, one of the sure things that were killing women were women giving themselves home abortions.
Oh.
Doing all kinds of crazy stuff.
And then get an infection.
Infections, and suddenly someone is in the little house in the park, and they're on the floor, and you got to call the police, and maybe they survive and maybe they don't. So I wanted to point out the fact that this isn't something someone does lightly. This is something someone does because they're desperate. And so that was one of my characters. And the other character that I think people really liked was a junkie called Fontaine. And I had my first trip to Europe and had gone and spent time in the Anne Frank house. And one of the things, that I saw when I got there was a wonderful actress called Shelley Winters.
Yeah.
And she gave the Anne Frank house.
She was in that movie, but the boat, right?
Yes, there's got to be moving after. Yeah, there's got to be moving after. Yes.
Actually, I think Shelley Winters, I think she loved Robert De Niro. Like she was like a godmother to him in some way.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she was in Lolita. I mean, she fabulous actress, and she gave her Oscar there, and I thought, wow. And then I went through all of the rooms where they had been hiding. And it was so, for me, very profound to think of having to hide, to think of having to hide in a building, not making any noise because you knew someone was looking to take you down and kill you.
Yeah. Terrifying.
Also, and I hate flying. So I had a whole thing. So it was all about me going to Europe, on the plane, and talking about all the stuff with the stewardesses and just talking all kinds of crap.
Let's get back to in the audience. Michael Jackson, was Quincy in the audience then? Did you meet Quincy Jones that night?
That's when I met Quincy. Yeah.
So did they tell you pretty much right away you're in the movie? We're hiring you.
Stephen did. Stephen said, I would like to offer you the part of Celie. And I said, I don't think I can do that.
Well, you did. You more than did that.
Well, that really has a lot to do with him, because the thing that he did for me that really made it easy was I love movies. I think I told you my mom and I would watch movies, and so he also is a movie fanatic. So we could talk about movies. So he would say, do you remember that moment before they see Boo Radley in To Kill a Mockingbird, when he's behind the door and Scout knows that he's there, but she doesn't want to scare him? I said, yeah. He said, that's the feel I want. So okay.
So you two were just on the same wavelength from get-go, which is a very special thing.
It's really great, and it doesn't happen all that often. But
so you're like an encyclopedia, and not only that, to be able to know someone just tell you that, and to get the essence of the feeling.
Yeah.
Because it's not the words, is it? As you know, it's the feeling, it's the essence. And you can just nail it like that. For me, you in Color Purple, that role was so liberating for women.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you start off in the way of being under the control of your husband, not feeling good about yourself, and we get to see you blossom.
Right.
And just everything on a karmatic level just came back to you in the right way possible. I mean, that movie is a really strength building movie for a Black woman and for a woman, period.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, you've seen it on Broadway and you've seen it on stage. When you see it on stage, have you been to see the stage productions?
Yeah. Yeah.
How is it to watch?
Well, it's like an echo. It's like hearing an echo. It's like, oh, okay. So what I'm seeing is an echo of the original, which I like, and the echo then morphs into their, becomes their performance, and then it morphs into something else. So it's just great to watch the morphing of this, of
and
the
different interpretations.
Yes. Yeah. Really heavenly.
But then we gotta jump to Ghost, because Ghost, I mean, if people didn't know who you were from Color Purple, they sure did from Ghost. You were just like such a beautiful and lovely protective ghost.
And well, I got that job because of Patrick Swayze.
Can you tell us about that? Because I read that.
Yeah. So a friend of mine came over. We were having lunch at my house. And I said, so what are you up to? She said, girl, I've just been to this audition. Every Black woman and her mother. She said, Black women got up out the grave to come do this audition. I was like, oh. I said, what is it? And then she explains it to me. And so we eat and we go on about our business. And then I call my agent and I say, is there a reason you didn't let me know to go maybe audition for this thing? He said, oh, who told you? It was Ron Meyer. Who told you? I said, well, I just had lunch with my friend Beverly. And she said he said, oh. I said, what's the matter? I don't ever want to tell you news like this. And I said, okay. He said, they don't want you. I said, oh, do I know them? Are they mad at me? He said, they think that your persona, that Whoopi is too big and will take people out of the movie. I said, not that I'm comparing myself, but Marlon Brando is big. I mean, he's the guy. You know Marlon Brando, and then you move on with the character. But he said, I know, we told him. I said, oh, okay, no worries. And so that was that.
It's bad when people do that. I've had that told to me in my career as a model. They think it's a compliment. It is not a compliment.
Yeah.
It's like, let us go and have the opportunity and prove you wrong.
Yes.
At least give us that.
Give us the chance. But it was like, oh, okay, I'm all right. I'm not mad at you. He said, we'll find something else for you to do. But it hurt my feelings a little bit. I'm not going to lie. It hurt my feelings. Of course. And so I go and I'm in Alabama, of all places, and I'm making a movie about the civil rights sit-in. And I get a call from Ron Meyer, and he says, you remember that movie that they didn't want you for? I said, yeah. He said, well, the director and the actor want to come to wherever you are and see if there's any way to do this with you. I said, what happened? He said, well, they've hired Patrick Swayze. I said, oh, that's great. They said, well, Patrick wanted to know why they hadn't come to you, because they told him that they thought that you would take people out of the movie. He said, so you haven't even auditioned her? And they said, no.
Yeah.
He said, and Bonnie Timmerman, who was the casting director, said, no, they won't let me bring her in. Just threw everybody into the bus, said they won't let me bring her in. Patrick said, I'm not saying yes to this, please, until we know that she's not the right person, because this is ridiculous. She's perfect.
May he rest in peace. God bless him.
Because I'd never met him.
You'd never met him?
No, I'd never met him, but he was a fan.
You see, so everyone, what can happen?
Yeah.
There are good people out there.
That's right. You never know who's watching. You never know who remembers something about you, and that was another great lesson. And so they came down to Alabama, and as soon as Patrick and I looked at each other, we started laughing. And I said, how you doing, man? And he said, I'm good. And we just started talking and doing shit. And the director Jerry was just watching us interact. And we went on for about 2 hours. And I said, I gotta go back to work. I gotta go back to work because I'm shooting this movie. They were like, okay. And so we hugged, and it was like, I just said it was really nice to meet you.
And just tell us a little bit, how did you actually, was it the special effects? How did you, were you with in every scene? Did you see each other always, or some you on your own, or there was a green screen?
No green screen. Patrick was always there.
Always there.
Always there. And so I just stopped seeing him.
And had you met Demi before Ghost?
Yes, because Bruce and I had been friends for years, yeah. And so I knew Demi. I didn't know Tony Goldwyn, who I adore. And
that's right.
Yeah. It was a lot of Rick Aviles. He
was the villain.
Yes, he was the villain. And Rick was like the even villainer villain. He was the villainous. He was the guy who was trying to kill everybody. And so doing that, and I love Jerry Zucker because I loved Airplane. It was just one of just funny. So I was like ready to play. So Patrick and I would just cutting up, and Jerry would say, Patrick, you got to stop because you're not you can't do the jokes. Stop trying to do the jokes. And Patrick, because he wanted to be, Patrick wanted to be funny. So they would say, no, you can't be, just do it. So he would do stuff to me. He would try to get me to see him. Because I would look over here, and he said, how do you do that? How do you look at me?
You did that third wall amazing. It's really just through.
I said it's part of my toolkit that if I have to not be able to see, if I have to play someone who's blind, I have to know how to look like I'm doing all the things that I would be doing, but not seeing. So he said, oh, man. So that's what we did, and it was great.
Well, jump into, do you miss stand-up? I mean, those great comic reliefs, Whoopi, that you did.
Yeah.
All of you.
Yeah. Listen, I've always gone. I love playing casinos. If the best way to get me to
why casino?
Come to the casino and work on the stage, and I'm there. I love it. So up until COVID hit, I was going out every couple of weeks, and I just do shows because it's fun for me.
Everyone I ever spoke to that were great friends with him, they just said he was an incredible man.
Yeah.
And that must have been such a shock for you all.
Well, yeah. He was like, Robin and Billy are my big brothers. And my big brother said it was okay to have them in the family. So they were family and are. And so my brother called to tell me that Robin had passed. And he said, do I need to come and sit down with you? And I said, I think you do. I think you need to come. And so we mourned the passing of one of our brothers, because it just was like, so it was hard. It was just hard.
I can imagine, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just for people I knew, they were just it's really knocked them.
Yeah.
But I mean, Whoopi, what is that when, people who everyone thinks they're so, they're funny and they're comedic, but then there's a sadness as well that we it's like we expect, but then inside of them, there seems to be always a sadness.
Well,
Richard Pryor.
Yeah. Well, the thing you have to remember is we're all human. And so we all have foibles, not one of us are perfect or has everything good. People say, oh, they have the perfect life. And, you don't know what demons they're fighting, and people forget, it's, for me, Naomi, it's one of the downsides to the internet, because people talk to you like you are a machine, like you don't have any feelings. And I think oftentimes for a great many people, people should stay off of social media if you're trying to maintain your self-esteem, because there are lots of people there who are waiting and willing to tear you down.
Break you down.
Down. And isn't it something that we will take the word of people we don't know?
And that hurts us the most.
Yes. Somebody you don't know, who doesn't know you, has told you what you are and who you are. And people say, yes, that's right, and continue to feel bad about themselves.
I just don't read them. I don't read them. Just don't read those things. Talk to me about The View, because I've always been on The View, and you've got to be there and interview me, and I love it when you're there. Yeah. And how did that come into your life? And is it just like sitting in your living room?
Well, yeah. I mean, Barbara Walters started this amazing show, where these women are sitting around talking about stuff. And I think originally they thought they were going to be just talking about women things. And it evolved into women talking about the world that they live in. Mm-hmm. And so, it's a great job. What I didn't realize was that it would open me up to people who don't have my best interest at heart. So in the old days, you get letters and people saying how terrible you are because you said X, Y, Z. And it's like, you do know that that's my job, right? It's my job to give you my opinion. That's what they're paying me for. So you can't be mad because that's my opinion. You can tell me all kinds of stuff, but, back off. So, and on any day, half the country hates you. Yeah. And these days, it's very hard to get people to understand, hey, I'm okay with how you feel. You just you're mad at me about how I feel. And you tell me I'm the scum of the earth because I feel like this. Like, no, this is how I feel and think. So when people say, we're going to get you, it's like, listen, if you're going to risk coming to mess me up, you risk going to jail to come to mess me up, you're an idiot.
Absolutely.
Just, yell at me on the television. Why would you put yourself in the path of
risk?
I mean, it's dumb, So I like the show. I love doing the show. It's fun. It's.
Now, wait a minute, please.
Mm-hmm.
You got that. I mean, there's been some issues with, how was it? Was it 5 of you together?
It's a lot. 5 is a lot. I'm not going to.
How did all the personalities get to work? You seem to be the neutral ground to me.
I try. Sometimes I don't do it well. But, again, you have 5 different personalities, 5 different ways of thinking, 5 different ways of delivering. And everyone has their boundary thing. You can go this far before it becomes personal. And you never want to go that. You never want to do that. Yeah. You don't want to make it personal.
You don't want to make it personal. Absolutely correct.
Not ever. Because, real friends, they think differently about this or about that. But real friends don't make it personal. They don't make it personal unless they're looking for a fight, a real fight.
That's true. That's a very true thing you just said there. Yeah. Very true.
And the newspaper stuff love to say that we're fighting.
So they love to make it like, oh, they're fighting at The View, blah, 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 blah. This one wants this one to leave. Yeah, I've seen all of that. But I've been at The View, and it's been a very chilled and positive vibe. I've enjoyed every time I've ever been on with you. And I have to tell you something. I was experiencing really bad pain last year in my lower back. And a friend of mine gave me this cream. And they said to me, this is Whoopi's. And I'm like, what do you mean this is Whoopi's? And I have it. I think I have like that left. I think it's almost finished. That cream really saved me. It took away my pain. And this is part of your CBD medical marijuana. How is that going?
Well,
that's the thing right now, isn't it?
It's a great thing. Listen, that company, Whoopi and Maya, is no longer together. I'm working with a different group now called Tikkun, Tikun, and they're out of Israel, which in Israel, they have no problems doing the investigation, learning about THC and learning about CBD. So it's a whole thing. They are on par with Whoopi and Maya, and maybe a little bit better. I really love them. And so what I'm going to do when we're done, you're going to give me a way to send something to you. And I'm going to send you something new to try, because I think I use this every day, and you can't smell it. It's brilliant. It's called TIKUN, Tikkun.
I mean, really, I was just like, that's not going to work, because I'm not into taking the painkillers, and it's never been my thing. Yeah. They're like, try this, Naomi. It's going to help your pain. It really did.
I'm so glad.
So it's the natural way. It's the natural way.
Well, tell me why we are still having to find things to take that will work. Because I tell you, if guys had the kind of cramps that we have, there'd be something. There'd be no problem. There'd be no problem.
They couldn't handle the cramps that we get.
You know, but you know, we have Midol, and we have Pamprin, you know, and Midol is from the late 1800s or the early 1900s. I'm sorry. Pamprin is from the 60s. There has been nothing else in between that. You know, you can take ibuprofen, but nothing that anyone has made that says, listen, use this. Because, you know, when you're 12, if you get your period, you know, what can you take if you have cramps? There's nothing out there. So that's
nothing out there.
We wanted to create the rub for Whoopi and Maya. And it's why I want to work with Tikkun, because what they've done is they have put all the information that you need to have. And, you know, little girls need to have stuff in their bags should it happen at school. And
no doubt. But have you seen the rise? Have you seen the rise during this pandemic and this time of where mental health has definitely become a big issue?
Right.
And was existing before, obviously, but now this has obviously affected a lot of people mentally. Has your product, like, have you seen a lot of people turn into CBD, THC to get through this time?
Some, but not all. I think most people are really looking, you know, there are people who are weed heads, you know, I was a weed head. But the older I got, I started recognizing that this was better just for my well-being in terms of working on my back problems, working on muscle issues. And so for me, I want it as medicine for as many people as who can use it, because it doesn't work on everybody. But all those people who don't want to get high, who just want the pain to stop, this is a really good way to go. And CBD, everybody needs to be very careful about CBD, because there's a lot of crap out there. And what you should know is CBD doesn't really work without at least the hint, just like less than a drop of THC. It has to have a drop of it in order to be effective in terms of pain. Most people now have a placebo effect, but it's not really working. It's not really working on pain. So, and when you do it and you mix it correctly, you don't get high. It's CBD mixed the correct way.
It balances out.
It really is helpful, because it becomes more CBD than THC. But you must have both. But listen, again, it doesn't work on everybody, but for those of you who have chronic pain, those of you who are looking for some way just on a daily basis, I'm telling you, if you're in California, there are so many great things on the market, and I'm recommending TIKUN, Tikkun, because I swear by it.
Okay, I'm gonna make sure I connect with you.
Yes, please.
And the last thing is, how is our great friend Andre? Have you seen him? I haven't seen him.
I've not.
Have you heard from him?
No.
I heard from him in June. I know he's written his book, but I haven't seen him. But I do remember being with you backstage at the Diamond Furstenberg show with your granddaughter and your daughter. Do you remember that?
Yes, I have the picture downstairs.
No, that was such a nice time.
It was a great time.
Really a great time.
You are the queen that I always knew you were. You talked to my granddaughter, and you were just so kind, and you didn't know who she was at the moment until I introduced you. But it didn't matter because you treated her like she was a golden child. And so that means everything, you know.
Because you treat me. I mean, I love kids, and I'm like, I just talking to you today, just the names, you were there when it was all happening, and with all these names of like, you're up there with the legends, Whoopi.
Well,
it's such an honor to get to speak to you today. Such an honor.
I say the same right back to you, Naomi Campbell.
And when I get back stateside and COVID is, please, pandemic and lockdown and all of this quarantine gets better, you've asked me before and I've never done it, and I will contact you. I want to hear more, because it's like, it's inspiring beyond words, because you make us all see that we can all get and achieve our dreams.
Yes. If I can do it, it is possible that everybody can do it.
But most importantly, your mother sounded like she was right there with you, and that's special, man. That's so special.
It is the greatest. It is the greatest. I'm very lucky.
Whoopi Goldberg, I love you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Time.
Good to see you.
Honestly an honor. Legend. Just a true legend right before our eyes, in our eyes. Thank you. Thank you, the Whoopi Goldberg, legend. Thank you so much. Wow. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and please like this video, and see you next Tuesday for No Filter with Naomi.